Okay, so it's been a little while since I've done any type of poker analysis on this channel. Ran across a video last night that was on Hungry Horse Poker, and it was a pretty interesting hand, one of them that he went through. Mark did, and you can go and check out his channel if you want to hear his thoughts on it. The reason for this video is basically to talk about the combos work on the river, or excuse me, on the turn. It's pretty interesting as far as mathematically combo wise, if this is a call or not. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit further in a minute because it was real interesting as far as whether or not to call. And technically, there is a right answer as far as combo work and pot odds. Of course, poker's a lot more than that. You got to take your villain into account and whether or not he turns certain hands into bluffs, whether or not he value bet then, et cetera, et cetera. But I'll talk about that in a minute. But this is a real interesting hand. Play the hand for you first, go through it quickly so you're familiar with the action of the hand, and then I'll get into the more technical stuff, which I want to talk about. Okay, so here we have Marley. She opens in late position, Queen Jack. Nothing too exciting there. Get over to Johnny, and he ends up three betting with A6 of diamonds. That's a fine play. I mean, in a short-handed table, on the button, depends on whether or not how wide you think she's opening, but A6 of diamonds is a fine three bet. Now Matt wakes up here in the small blind with ace king off. Of course, this is a mandatory four bet. Nothing real exciting to talk about there. And it comes back around to Johnny, and he decides whether or not to call. Personally, I kind of like usually most of the time against most villains, I'd probably fold here just because you're dominated so much of the time. You are in position, you are suited. It is really villain dependent. If I'm playing online, I'll make this a snap call against a lot of people that four bet light. But in a lot of live games, this is a fold. Again, a lot dependent there. So anyway, we have Matt that turns around and bets pretty small in ace king 10. GTO kind of says to bet bigger here. But I know a lot of guys, they tend to, including Mark mentioned, he'd like to. Again, my purpose is to not analyze this too much at this point, just kind of go through the action of the hand. So now we have a queen of diamonds on the turn. Still have ace king, top two pair, but an obvious straight comes in. And Johnny, who raised and then just calls a three bet, can obviously have a lot of jacks. He could have king jack, ace jack, jack 10. I mean, he could have a lot of jacks here. Ace jack, king jack. There are a lot of hands that he calls the flop with that have a jack in them. So now he can easily have a straight when it comes to the turn. So Matt decides what to do. He doesn't like this turn card. So he hems and haws and debates and ends up checking. I think it's a fine check here. You don't need to bet to find out where you're at. You can check, and then especially against someone who might put you in a pickle, who is going to turn hands into a bluff and just jam if you bet small on the turn. I don't like that play, just betting small. I prefer to just check and basically evaluate. It doesn't mean that I'm just going to insta fold if he does bet, but I think check evaluate is probably the right move. Okay, as far as Johnny and his decision on the turn, I'm going to go ahead and just play what his thought process is, and then we'll go from there. By the way, excuse the audio. I know it's a little garbled.
Because I hold more jacks in my hand, I can turn my hand into a bluff and move it all in for over a 2x pot shove and put him to the test with two pair set. It's pretty likely that he has two pair set here. So it's just a question of whether or not he's willing to fold those hands. And because I possess a lot of jacks in my hand that would call the flop, that would take this line, I think that he's going to find a fold enough times for me to make this play profitable. And if not, we can always hit the diamond on the river and get super lucky. All in.
And now we're back on Matt, excuse me. And boy, he's in a pretty pickle, isn't he? This is a real tough spot. It's I think he bet almost 2x pot here. And boy, it's tough because a lot of good players will jam here for value. You would think, well, why would they jam so much if they want value? Well, again, everything's player specific, and a lot of times good players will actually jam for value here as well as a bluff. So it makes it real hard for Johnny to decide what to do and to call. The thing is Matt realizes that Johnny probably doesn't have a jack with the fact that he checked it. And even if he bet small, you figure he doesn't have a jack. So it puts Matt in a really pretty pickle. He is way ahead, as you can see here, but he can't know there. It's tough. Now, it's all player dependent. You have to decide on whether or not Johnny is capable of turning something like two pair or ace of diamonds, six of diamonds, king 10, pocket queens, a lot of different hands into a bluff. Not everyone's capable of turning two pair into a bluff. And against some people, it's just an insta fold. Against people that will turn king, queen, queen 10, and a lot of different ace, x of diamonds. If they're capable of easily turning those hands into bluffs, well, now you have a decision, which is when your combos come in. Now, it's the whole point of this video is to kind of discuss the combos and decide whether or not, theoretically, this is a call against someone capable of betting, basically turning their hand into a bluff, a made hand into a bluff. A lot of times, at the lower stakes, people are not capable of turning a made hand into a bluff. But against a good player who is capable of that, now you got a lot tougher decision. Okay, so I know most of you understand combo work. Basically, it's combinations of hands that you or your opponent can have. Here we're looking at how many straights our villain could have. So when we look at a hand like ace jack, that's a straight. That is a hand where we have to go back to pre-flop. Sometimes people say, oh, who cares about pre-flop? No, it matters a lot. You have to go through, starting at pre-flop and go through and do hand reading to make sure that what you're saying is his possible hands are his possible hands based on the action. So based on the fact that our villain 3-bet and then just call the 3-bet in position, he can have all of these hands, I believe. So ace jack, you would look at, okay, the number of, when you look at a board, you basically look at how many are not showing, how many of the cards are not showing and multiply them. So there's an ace on the board. So you could turn around and say, okay, there's 3 aces not showing, and then there's 4 jacks not showing. So it's 3 times 4 or 12 combos are possible that our villain could have. However, we have an ace in our hand. You have to take that into account. So it's not 3 aces, it's 2 aces. So it's 2 times 4 or 8 combos. Queen jack, 3 times 4, 12 combos. Queen 10, 12 combos. Now it's easy to overlook this. Once again, king jack is 8 combos. Why? Because we have a king in our hand. So if we add up all of these combos, I mean, then there's jack 10, of course, assuming our villain sticks around with a pair in the gutter, which is a fair assumption. So our villain has 52 combos of straights. So let's keep that in mind as we're figuring this all out. All right, so now we're going to look at the bluff combos. Basically, you want to keep in mind that this is a guy that will turn 2 pair into a bluff and actually have ace of diamonds, x of diamonds as a possible bluff and turn combos into a bluff. I'll talk about that, or sets into a bluff. I'll talk about that more in a minute. The 2 pair combos, queen 10. Again, you take the cards that are not showing. There are 3 10s not showing, 3 queens not showing. So we basically have 3 times 3, 9 combos. Ace 10, 6 combos. Remember, we have an ace, so it's 2 times 3 and not 3 times 3. Ace queen, 6 combos. King 10, 6 combos. King queen, 6 combos. And ace king is only 4 combos. Because remember, we also have a king in our hand. So it's 2 times 2 instead of 3 times 3 or 3 times 2. So 2 times 2 is 4. Yep, you're right. So there you go. And next, we look at the ace of diamonds, x of diamonds. We already considered all the combos that have 2 pair. So we're only going to look at ace deuce through ace 9 of diamonds, which is 8 combos. And then sets. Now, sets, we actually have 5 combos of sets. Now, sets, when you're looking at a board, possible combos, the number of combos is 3, right? So if you don't have an ace in your hand, there's an ace on the board. There's 3 combos of sets out there. But remember, we have an ace in our hand. We have a king in our hand. So we're assuming that this particular player will not 5-bet jam aces or kings. Personally, when I'm playing against good players, I don't have a 5-bet range. Most of the time, I don't have a 5-bet range, period, because I want to make sure I have aces and kings in my 5-bet range. So I went through that recently in the Jeremy Osmus tournament hand where I had a set of kings. He didn't expect it because I didn't 5-bet, and I do that on purpose. So I don't want to have a 5-bet range so that I have aces and kings in that range that don't 5-bet. People that 5-bet, typically that's all they got, are aces or kings. I mean, so you know exactly where you stand. So anyway, one combo of aces, one combo of kings, 3 combos of tens is 5 combos. Now, why didn't I include pocket queens here? Because is pocket queens really calling the flop? He might just flat a 4-bet in position, but he's not calling a flop with pocket queens, in my opinion. So if he is, then there's a couple more combos. But I could see someone calling with a pair in the gutter, calling with just a gutter, pocket queens. Maybe I didn't include it. If you wanted to, you could just add another couple combos to these to this. So anyway, if you add them all up, you have 50 combos. So again, let's go back and take a look here. All right, so what we got here is about 52 value combos, about 50 bluff combos. So it's about 50-50. We really could call, and it really depends on other factors on whether or not we want to. I mean, if you look at the odds here, if our villain bets pot, that we're actually getting 2-1. So we only need 33%, and we're getting 50% if you're going based strictly off of combos. Of course, you have to base everything on other factors as well as your villain, et cetera, et cetera. But going strictly off combos, this is a call because we're getting 2-1 or 33%, and it's a coin flip on that, whether or not we call or fold. Now, what if he 2x's the pot, which is what we had here? Well, we need about 40%. We need more equity to call, which makes sense. But 2 over 5, 2 plus 1, plus 1, 2. You have the call of 2 plus the 1 that was originally in the pot, so it's 2 over 5. So we need 40%. And we're getting a coin flip, so technically it's a call. I mean, honestly, guys, 50% is there's no money in the pot. And someone bets and then you call. Remember, pot is not 2-1, it's 1-1. So if there was no money in the pot, if there's $1 in the pot and he bets 1,000, you're getting essentially 50%. It's a coin flip, whether or not to call or not. So even if he 5x the pot, you're still 45%, which is technically a call again. So you have to decide though, as you're getting more and more money in the pot here and you're getting less and less of a price, is it really worth calling? Is he really putting this much money in? And it's strictly 50-50. It's, he's got just as many bluffs as he does value bets. You have to decide that. So, but according to the math, this is a call. No matter how much he bets on the river, because there's just as many value combos as there are bluff combos. So I thought this was kind of interesting to go through and look at this and decide based on combos what you should do. Now, is this easy to do in game? No, it's not. But the more you practice it and the more you get better at it, the more you'll be able to look at it and say, okay, there's ace X of diamonds. There's probably about 9 combos of that. And then I know 2 pair combos is, 9 combos, and plus and times 4 or whatever. So you can do this in the back of your head if you get good enough at it to have an idea. It won't be the exact number of combos, but you'll have a good idea as far as, are there a lot more value combos as far versus bluff combos. And this was a real interesting one, I thought, because it was close. It was hard to tell. I was like, boy, on combos, is this really a call or a fold? So I decided to go through this exercise just to see, and it is close. There's about as many values as there are bluffs. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. And make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you all later. All right, a quick clarification here. I treated this kind of like it was an all-in on the river, where you're deciding if you're ahead or behind getting a 2 times pot size bet. This was on the turn. So if we were Matt, we actually had 4 outs to improve. If we're Johnny and we're behind, we have 7 outs to improve. So it gets a little more complicated. You could run the equities on Poker Cruncher. So it's not exactly what I had talked about as far as the combos, but the purposes of this video is basically talk about combo work. And as far as percentages, you can see here, well, 78% versus 22%. So it's 50-50 on a decision. If it's on the river, if you know the exact cards, and you can see it's 78-22, but we're basing this off of the fact we don't know our opponent's cards, and we're looking at the combos of possibility of hands he could have. So making a clarification there. Again, this can be used as combo work, can be used a lot of times on the river as well. So hopefully I cleared up things a little bit there. I mean, it's easy if you know what the other opponent has, but we're going off the assumption we don't. So hopefully this helps. All right, guys, we'll talk to y'all later.